All right, Iran bombing or not, fact is stocks are up today and oil prices were down. It's encouraging. Welcome back to the show, David Bahnsen, founder and managing partner of the Bahnsen Group. David, I think we're going to see more bombing. All right, I don't know that with 100% certainty, but that's my reckoning. I think that's a common sense point of view. What does that mean? I mean, what should investors do or think about if that is the case?
What investors do think about it is not much at all. And that's been the case since about a month after the bombings began, back in March, going into April. And it's a fascinating thing that we have the Iran thing that's gone on and all the Fed changes in interest rate expectations. And those are not the two biggest stories in the market. It's profits.
Yes.
It's the AI build out.
Thank you.
Those are what are driving markets. Clearly, that's what investors care about.
Who was the guy who said profits?
I don't remember his name, but he influenced me greatly.
But you're right. The other thing is we've been sneaking ships through the southern part of the strait, the Oman part of the strait, which may annoy Iran, tough darts, but they'll keep sneaking ships through no matter what happens. No, I think it's unlikely. Now, having said that, maybe I'll be dead wrong. It's unlikely we're going back to 125 or 150 or 200.
I think you're right. It's very unlikely. It would be a tail risk that the markets couldn't price in. And what's riskier, to expect that to happen and to price that accordingly and miss out on other things going on in markets? By the way, the markets are not just up. It's up with Mag 7 down or flat.
Right.
It's up with a broadening of markets into other sectors. It's been a rotational story this year.
I think my friend Ed Yardeni, I think he calls it something like the impressive 493.
Yeah.
And you're right, and they've outperformed the Mag 7. The Kevin Warsh interest rate story, how do you see it?
Well, I'm of the opinion that he's not going to hike because I believe Warsh believes what I believe and what I think you believe, that real growth is not inflationary.
Yeah, right.
And that what you see here is the 10-year still sitting at 4.5-ish. The tip spreads have come down.
Right.
And so what that shows is higher expectations for real growth. The Fed doesn't need to cut just because of volatility around Strait of Hormuz. Supply shocks are not monetary. And understanding the difference between the two has not always happened at the Fed. I think Warsh gets it.
Not even Jay Powell was digging for oil.
No.
Inside the Fed construction site. That's a joke. Not even Jay Powell. Okay, last thought on this. Your podcast on Alexander, we were talking about J.D. Vance attacking Milton Friedman, which I don't understand, and Margaret Thatcher, and meritocracy. It doesn't sound like a free enterpriser. But his Hamilton stuff was sorted poorly, too. It
was. And by the way, I would argue by inference he was attacking Reagan as well, because he's connected to all of this.
And by the way, Trump liked Milton Friedman. I've heard it once. I've heard it many times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, and you know, in a lot of ways, President Trump built his business in the aftermath of what Milton Friedman was out preaching in the 70s and 80s into the 90s on free markets, free enterprise, supply side. Look, Alexander Hamilton is one of us. Okay, he believed in capital formation.
Yes.
He believed that to have the preconditions of economic growth, you needed rule of law, you needed a government that paid its bills. But the notion that a lot of these guys want to talk about is Hamilton being a big government, big interventionist in the markets, it isn't true. The Federalist Papers stuff he wrote that I quoted in my Capital Record podcast.
He was for private investment and said so many times. Anyway, the only money the federal government had in those days was from tariffs.
Well, that's right. And his goal of paying the state taxes, it was because he wanted strong capital formation.
Boom, David Bahnsen. Very optimistic. Thank you for coming back on. All right.